Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Kline, co-founder and CEO, along with my husband and company visionary, Devan Kline.
And together, with our amazing team, we are going to help you push past your limits, not just physically in our gyms, but right here, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually on the Burn Bootcamp podcast.
Together, we will take on challenges and break through barriers to transform into the best possible version of ourselves. We are more than a gym. We are a community. Your community. Let's go, Burn Nation.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. I am here with my co-hosts, Morgan Kline, Trisha Pena. I am DK, and we have an amazing show for you guys today. We're talking back to school. We have some food talk, organic versus non-organic. Do we have to? Do we have to? What's all that noise about organic versus non-organic? We're going to talk through that. And we're going to debunk some nutrition myths. We like the myth or fact on this show. We like to have headlines and member Q&As as well. So we have some questions from our members. We are going to cover things such as the importance of form and time under tension instead of ego lifting. We're going to talk about menopausal workouts, specifically when it comes to burst training and intense cardio. Should you really be doing it? And we're also going to take a member question that asks, can you talk more about radical candor? Okay, so a great show for you guys today, and I'm feeling really good. The podcast is going well. Thank you for all of your messages and your ideas and lots of DMs that I'm getting. You guys are sliding into my DMs and dropping questions, and we're growing, people. We're growing, and I know that makes Trish happy because she's our VP of marketing, so she wants to continue to see us grow. So if you love the podcast, make sure that you review it and go subscribe and do all those things to support us because we're in here working hard for you guys to bring you the mental reps outside of the gym, right, Trish?
Yeah, yes, we are. Share with your friends. We want more people to know about Burn Bootcamp, so you hit it right on the head. I'll go ahead and just start talking about my day. I mean, we are so close to school being back in session, and I don't know about you guys. I know, Morgan, you're going to share. You're already back in school. Yeah. I'm a little jealous. I thrive off routine. My kids thrive off routine. We live in a routine. So I'm trying really hard to just enjoy and soak in those last couple of days of summer, but also like really excited for kids to be back in school. My littlest, my 3-year-old is actually starting a new school, which is, my mama heart's a little bit nervous for that. So I'm feeling all those emotions. I feel like moms out there can resonate a lot with that. Yeah. How are you feeling, Morgan?
I'm definitely feeling that way. Ryan started school this year, so it's been rough on me too, but he's loving it. We're about a week into school, but also still enjoying a little bit of the, summertime, and we're getting ready for September and fall's coming. But yeah, I thrive off routine as well, so we'll talk a lot about that later in the podcast, but happy to be here. There's a lot going on in Burn Nation. We're going to get right to it and what's going on, and starting with our gear. So if you guys are watching this live on YouTube or you see some of the clips here, we have our August inventory line on. So I've got a new tank here that's got some like coral and blue. Trish has a nice cute sweatshirt that's got the same colors.
I like that one, Trish. I like that. That's my favorite one. I like the brightness of that one.
The bright blue. And then Devan's got a little crew neck.
My cool guy sweatshirt, the baggy, I'm humble. I'm hiding the muscles underneath, type sweatshirt. So, if you don't want to be like showing off, put this on. It goes good with like some shorts, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my retail fashion advice. Just everything just goes with shorts.
Good job. I think you really sold us there.
Did I sell you?
You sold us there. But this is all dropping today in location. So make sure that you are asking your franchise partners about it, or you're getting to that retail center because they are going to go quick.
Do you remember when we used to sell T-shirts out of a cardboard box out of the trunk of my car in a parking lot?
I sure do. We've come a long way.
It's come a long way. It's been an incredible ride. What a enticing offer too. Hey, come meet me in the dark parking lot and buy T-shirts out of my car.
Yeah, there's some people in the Lake Norman area that still are wearing that original shirt.
Oh, they're
I love
rocking it.
Yeah, it said your workout is our warm up.
Yes, it did.
Crap talking on the back of the T-shirt,
and it was also like thin material.
Yes, very thin, little like burnout material.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yes. So go grab your inventory or your retail today.
Yeah, do that. That's going to be exciting. Location number 408 in Central Madison, Alabama. You guys, can you believe it? Location 408. Big shout out to Jamie and Clark Lambert. Jamie and Clark are great friends and amazing multi-unit franchise partners. They also own Jones Valley in North Madison, Alabama, and we're so excited that they're continuing to take over the Northern Alabama market. And listen, Jamie is on our Franchise Advisory Council as well, which is a group of our franchisees from coast to coast that really represent the voice of the system overall. Us three being leaders in the company here, it's vital that we have a feedback loop, in that one of our core principles is that we listen. And when we do listen, that we bring the issues of the company to the forefront, right in front of everyone, transparently, so everybody can see the gaps. Just like it is in your personal life with your health and fitness journey, the growth is in the gaps. You have to be able to identify the gaps in your life and do something about it, create a strategy to overcome that gap, and through that process, you grow. And so we do the same thing in business, and Jamie is intricate with the rest of the FAC in helping us do that. I'd also like to say, when we were at a regional training in Franklin, Tennessee, in Nashville, so Clark was a ball player. He was a former minor league catcher. And so him and I were communicating with each other like, hey, dude, bring your catcher's mitt, because if I get 10 minutes outside in the parking lot, I'm going to throw a live bullpen to you. And I did, and we both still got it, by the way, except for we don't have it for a very long time. We could play catch pretty hard for about 10 or 15 throws, and then it looked good for the 10 or 15 throws, though. So, once an athlete, always an athlete, I guess. So shout out to Jamie and Clark Lambert, just amazing people, and we're going to continue to foster their growth. So location 408, go see them in Central Madison, Alabama.
Yeah, it's so awesome to see them impacting more lives. And we have a story here from a member that her life has been impacted by Burn Boot Camp. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll never get tired of saying how I just love reading members' stories because they're always about how their life has changed on the inside. Sure, we're about physical change because we're a fitness company, but it's more important about how you're feeling on the inside. So Megan Norris from Madison, Mississippi, she shared her burn story. So I'm going to go ahead and read it to you guys. She said, growing up, she was an athlete. She went to college, she stopped playing sports, and battled eating disorders. She struggled to accept her body through a variety of weights and sizes. She overexercised and underfueled her body. In recovery, she continued to struggle with body image. After she had kids, the weight and body image struggles seemed to intensify, but she wasn't sure how to fix it. She wasn't making herself a priority and knew she needed a change, but she wasn't sure where to start. When the local burn opened up, she signed up hoping it was the answer to making herself a priority, getting back into shape, and finding an appreciation for her body. The first camp was so much, and now she exercises because she wants to, not because she has to. Exercise is no longer a punishment or permission for eating. I've accomplished so much of what I set out to do. She's made herself a priority, and she knows how to fuel her body, and now she enjoys exercise again. She's over 40 and enjoying her life, and she's in the best shape ever. So this is so great. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. Megan. This is awesome. I know I personally have a similar story to Megan. I felt the same way after kids. I grew up being an athlete, and I don't know if this is how she's feeling or how anyone else feels, but you kind of lose that kind of almost like your rhythm, right? So you're in college, growing up, you're kind of, people are telling you what to do. And then all of a sudden you're kind of having to figure it out by yourself. And it's a lot of test and learn, and you go through these ups and downs it's like a mental game in your head, right? And you have to be strong enough to figure out what is best for you. And so I'm so glad that she found Burn Boot Camp. I'm so glad that she found that community to help her really dig in and have that awareness. And Devin, I know we've talked about having a sense of awareness a lot on this podcast, and I think that that's what Burn Boot Camp helps a lot of our members do, is have that sense of awareness of what really is that trigger right now in my body to make me mentally not feel that great, and how can I overcome that. And a lot of it, again, is what we talk about. The things that you do in the gym really help you from a mental perspective, and then outside of those four walls as well. So I just really appreciate Megan's story. I know it hit home for me. Morgan, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it hit home with me as well, because it really boils down to finding an identity over and over again in your life. And so she mentioned, she was an athlete in college, and, I've been watching a lot of the Olympics. So, those have ended now, but I remember hearing even from Shawn Johnson, she was over there as one of the reporters, and she talked about how after the Olympics is a really hard time for these athletes, because they kind of don't know what's next for them, right? Unless they're competing again or doing it again in 4 years, they've got to reestablish what that identity is. And that can cause people to lose confidence. And so you couple that with not having that community anymore, not having that person or that coach telling you, hey, this is why you work out and this is why you're doing it, and kind of having that North Star, you got to reestablish it. And that's why I think that's what Burn helps people do so much, is find that identity again and gain that confidence of who you are and what your path forward needs to look like. And then it can change again when you become a mother, like she said, and she kind of regressed or digressed. And I felt that too, when, you become a mom and you're just like, am I just a mom now? Like what else is there for me? What's my goals? What am I driving forward towards? So I agree. I think that Burn can be that for so many people, and it has been that for so many people that we get to interact with and hear their stories. It's some sort of loss of identity, and you do need people around you to help you get that back and assure you that, hey, you're more than just this, and you're more than just an athlete, you're more than just a mom, you're more than just a wife. There's more for you, and let's come around you and help you gain that confidence and make yourself a priority first.
Yeah, and when I read Megan's story, what stuck out to me the most was that line where you said, Trish, she continued to struggle with body image. And this notion of body image is a really interesting human phenomenon, because, our body and our relationship with our body and the way we feel about ourselves should be all that really matters. But so often, and this is true for everybody at some point in their lives, they're letting the external environment tell them what they should be. And so that image is then created in some societal kind of template, I guess, and then you kind of adopt that onto yourself, and then you look at the societal template versus where you're at, and you all of a sudden, have feelings of depression or anxiety or discontent because it doesn't align to the blueprint that somebody else told you that you should have. And I started thinking about, how does this manifest across different people? Like thinking about my kids, when my daughter comes home from school and she says, Dad, I'm really sad because somebody called me stupid today. And my first question is, well, do you think you're stupid? And she'll say, well, no. And I'll say, well, honey, shouldn't that be the only opinion that matters, is the opinion of yourself? Do you think you're smart? Do you feel smart? Do you feel intelligent? And she says, yes, Dad. And, that constant reminder, I think, is what we need for ourselves in order to combat this inevitable human psychology, because we're all going to go there. No human is, you can't get away from it, right? You can't get away from the projection of society onto you. And so we have to have constant reminders of who we really are. And, your body is, if you're happy with it because of what it gets to do for you, that's a different scenario than, are you happy with your body because of how someone else told you that you looked?
I agree with everything you just said. And one of the really cool things that just happened in Burn Bootcamp, Burn Nation, is we just partnered with Missy Franklin, who is a 5-time Olympic gold medalist. And she's all about what you just said, Devin, because she's experienced that firsthand. And really what you said as well, from what Shawn Johnson was talking about, leaving the Olympics. It's like, what's my identity? And just having also other people's opinions when you're on a national spotlight just projected onto you. She's gone through a lot of, and she spoke openly about it. I had the opportunity to interview her on a podcast, so you guys can go ahead and check that out here on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening, and listen to her talk about her journey. She really gets into it. She's open about her, what the steps that she's needed to take. And what I really like about now having her part of Burn Bootcamp is not only is she a member at Burn Bootcamp Bellevue, shout out to Burn Bootcamp Bellevue, so she knows Burn Bootcamp, but she also knows what it's like to battle that mental toughness. And so she can really almost, be that voice for us, for Burn Nation, for all of us. Me as a member, I put my member hat on all the time. I was a member first before sitting in this seat. And now she can help us all recognize that within ourselves. So I just wanted to layer that on top, because I really think that she's going to be instrumental in helping us just voice that and talking more about it.
Yeah, and we can put the link to the Missy Franklin interview in the show notes, Trish. That was an amazing interview, and I enjoyed listening to it. And so if you guys want to check that out, it's in the show notes. But definitely excited to have Missy on as a brand champion for Burn Boot Camp and to represent us nationally. I love the USA.
Let's go.
Kick butt in the Olympics too.
Yep.
Okay, we're gonna move on to a member Q&A, everybody. And this one comes from Jody Hoffman of O'Fallon, Missouri. Shout out to Jody. Morgan and I, we've been able to meet Jody and hang out with her in the greater St. Louis market, done a couple events there. And she asked, why is it important to focus on form and time under tension as opposed to ego lifting? So what do you guys think? How do you want to tackle this? Should we maybe define what time under tension is, define what ego lifting is, and then tackle
yes,
it, or
I
what?
think we should, because
Okay.
I'll admit I Googled ego lifting. It's not a term that I've ever used. And so I'm not ashamed to say, like, I think I know what ego lifting is, but let me just confirm this before we go on the podcast. So ego lifting is honestly just doing a weight that you shouldn't be doing, not doing it well with form. You're doing it to look good or to show off. And so you are likely like 20 pounds, 10 pounds, 50 pounds over a weight that you should be using, and you're maybe just doing a couple reps to like make it look good.
Have you ever seen the memes of the people that stack just dozens of plates onto the leg press machine, and there's so many plates on the leg press machine that they don't have any more room to put plates on the leg press machine, and then they get all jacked up and they put their feet on it, and then their knees bend like 1/2 an inch, like 4 times, and they put it back up, slam the bars and go, ah!
Yeah.
Yeah, that's ego lifting.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So what's
This
time
is
under
very-
tension, Devin?
This is very common in sports. It's very common at any box gym in America. You could walk into any gym. I love box gyms. I love all fitness, but there's a lot of ego lifting that goes on in those box gyms. So, and there's some in burn, but we have to stop that. We have to get into good form, because time under tension is what really matters. So, time under tension will increase what's called the metabolic stress and the muscle fiber recruitment. That's what it does, okay? So there's a term called mechanical load, which is just a fancy term for saying you have a lever, like your arm, like your elbow. There's a lever point, and bones and ligaments and muscle all make up the lever, okay? And so what we're doing when we're ego lifting is we are putting stress on the lever itself, not on the muscles that are moving the lever. Okay, so we're putting stress in non-targeted areas. And we all know wherever your attention goes, that's where your energy is going to flow. So if you have an opportunity to lift weight within a range of motion that can allow you to maintain your mind-muscle connection. So if I'm doing a bicep curl with one arm, that's my lever, and I'm not leaning back like Morgan was suggesting, or doing like the bodybuilder style or the WWE style, like like the classic like Hulk Hogan curls, right? I don't want to do that, because I'm putting attention and energy in places that I'm not intending to put energy. Okay, so if I'm leaning back, I'm putting stress on my abdomen, my lower back. I'm allowing myself to swing a little bit, which is taking the connection, the time under tension away from that mechanical load. So, and when you do that, what you're going to have is a large increase in injuries, big time. Bodybuilders do this for specific reasons. We won't go into that today, but I'm not going to say that it's right or wrong. I'm just going to say that bodybuilders will do some intentional ego lifting for specific purposes that they believe will help them get a little bit extra load to the top of that curl, so they can have a real strong eccentric letdown. That might be one reason. So it's not good or bad. It's just 99.9999999% of people should be focused on time under tension and hypertrophy, or increasing the metabolic stress for maximum muscle fiber recruitment. So is that a good foundation to answer this question?
That was great.
Okay. So then what I'll give here is an example. Let me get practical now. Okay, so on top of that foundation I just laid out, let's get practical. The one movement as a trainer that I want to see my members do the most universally is a pull-up. I want to see my members do a pull-up. There's such an empowering feeling around being able to do a pull-up. The confidence you get from that is so much more productive than maybe the confidence you get from like weight loss. Okay, so the number one way to get any human being to do a pull-up is just time under tension. Here's a real simple philosophy. Get up to the top of the bar, grab the bar, put your chin over the bar, and hold it as long as you can. 30 seconds. You can do this every day. You can do this every other day. Don't do it when your back's sore, but you can do it every time that your back is not sore. And I promise you, if you just commit to what I'm saying and you get up on that bar and you increase the mechanical load, the metabolic stress that's going to come from holding that movement at the top of that bar, my friends, you'll be able to do a pull-up before you knew it. I've seen it thousands of times over, and it's a good goal to aspire to. So there you go.
And that's why at the end of like, if we're doing pull-ups in camp, the trainer will say, last 10 seconds, pull up, if you're under the rig or on the rig, go up and hold. If you're wondering why the trainer says that, I'm gonna put my trainer hat on for a second. That is why. And I will say, like, I lost my pull-ups. I love that example because I lost mine after I had my third child. And the trainers at Burn Boot Camp Lake Norman just had me, they said, just go up there and hold. And within like a couple of months, and I also started taking my supplements, creatine, shout out, I was able to get my pull-ups back. So there is definitely that it works. But I also say, for my own just opinion on this question, for the longest time, I don't know if I was an ego lifter. I don't know if I would put myself in that category, but I definitely was not thinking about form. I was just like maybe trying to lift heavy. I don't really know what I was trying to do, but Matt Morris was my trainer a couple years ago, and he always says, and I think he still probably says it on the live, like, touch the muscle that you're trying to work. So if you're in a glute bridge, whatever it is, then that helps with that, what Devan was saying, with that mind connection to that muscle. And then once you can start to feel that muscle work, then you're able to really understand what you need to do, what you need to shift in your form. Like I would always call over a trainer, like, this doesn't feel right, trying to hold that muscle. So I really recommend, if you're not doing that right now in camp, when you're working out, really think about what muscle you're trying to work, because then it kind of turned into like a little bit of a game for me. It's like, okay, now I can feel this. Now how do I keep improving this muscle? And I will say, since I've started to do that, I've started to see results faster because I'm actually working the muscle I'm supposed to be working rather than working my dominant muscle in whatever muscle group that is, because I am quad dominant. So if it's a leg exercise and it's supposed to be working maybe a different muscle than my quad, I'm going to go quad just because I'm quad dominant. So I really have to focus to not use my quads if I'm supposed to be using another muscle group. So I know that didn't really answer the question, but that was just kind of my thoughts if anyone else was kind of thinking the same thing.
That's a great elaboration. And Morgan, I want to hear your thoughts too, but let's not pretend that your quad domination is not intentional. I know you saw Carrie Underwood on stage, just like, oh my gosh, look at those legs, and then you just start doing front squats all the time.
Yeah, but Trish isn't far behind from Carrie Underwood.
I think you could probably be her trainer.
Yeah. No, I agree with what both of you guys have said, and to me, ego lifting at this phase of my life would create injury, and I'm not interested in that. So, you know, as I have obviously gotten older, got more educated, become a trainer, I can see good form and bad form, and I can see how bad form can lead to injury. And then, you know, that's kind of defeating the purpose of why you're working out in the first place. So, for me, it's I don't have an ego to say, hey, these weights are just a little bit too heavy for me. Either I'm going to just do a couple reps, but I'm okay with then saying I'm going to go down one, right? Because I understand the benefits of form and time under tension and how long I can actually do that. So the weights do no good by being on the ground. So I'd rather get good reps than lift heavier.
So I'm gonna let our members in on a little trainer knowledge here. Okay, so in our training manual, which we have what now, more maybe 2,200 trainers in Burn Nation.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, so all 2,200 of us, we follow this format, okay? And I'm gonna let you members in so that when your trainer comes up to you and they're following this format, you can reference the podcast and you can say, I know what you're doing because Devan told me about it on the podcast, okay? Number one, form. Okay, it's form. Form over everything. That's what we're talking about today. Number two is load. Once you have great form and you're doing what we're talking about, mind-muscle connection, proprioception is good, you're feeling your body in space and time, your form is good, then we start to load you up with more weight through that good form, through that range of motion. And then finally, the last thing that we'll do is called rep manipulations. And so If we observe your form is good, we load you up, and then we observe that maybe there's 30 seconds left and we didn't load you up good enough, we might have you drop down into one of these isometric holds or isolations to increase the time under tension so that you recruit maximum muscle fibers. All right, so form, load, rep manipulation. Trainers, you already know this, but that is what we do in the gym. We just rinse and repeat that, and that's how we strengthen the bodies in Burn Nation.
Yep. All right, we're going to move on to a health and fitness headline. So we've got an article here from today.com, and it talks about energy drinks and if they are bad for you. So I'm just first going to recap the article for us, and then we can all kind of weigh in on our thoughts about energy drinks. So the article talks about the health risks associated with drinking energy drinks, and it quotes Dr. Frank Hugh, a professor at Harvard Medical. He says that high caffeine intake can disrupt sleep, contribute to insomnia, and exacerbate mental health issues. So that's one thing that energy drinks can do. And the FDA says that up to 400 milligrams of caffeine a day is safe, and many of those energy drinks exceed that. So that's one thing to note. And then we've got another quote here that says the combination of caffeine or other stimulants can affect heart rate, heart function, or blood pressure. So high sugar content is also something that both of these dietitians and professors say is something to note, right? So the caffeine and also the sugar content that are existing in these energy drinks. So I've got the article up here, and it says things that you should be looking out for if you're going to consume energy drinks is looking at the ingredient label. And again, making sure that it's not got a bunch of artificial stuff in there, high in sugar, and then also the caffeine intake. So 400 milligrams is really the limit that we should have, and some exceed that, some are lower than that. I know I drink energy drinks. I actually only really drink them in the summertime. I think there's just something about I can't drink coffee as much in the summer, but they do say good alternatives to energy drinks are coffee or tea. Food actually can give you energy, believe it or not. And then, our pre-workout. I'll just plug that as well. So overall, I think this is not are they bad or good for you? It's just, hey, you need to look at what's the other caffeine that you're consuming in that day? What are the ingredients that exist in that energy drink? And how is it making you feel? Some people react to caffeine differently. So if you're drinking it too late in the day, are you not getting any sleep? Because sleep is such a foundational thing that if we're not getting good sleep, it's going to impact us the next day, which is going to probably cause us to take another energy drink because we're crashing, and it's that cycle. So be self-aware is what my 2 cents would be of, what you're consuming, how it's making you feel. Is it giving you a quick high and then, well, not a high, sorry, a quick energy burst and then you're crashing and it's like this cycle.
What kind of energy drinks are you on?
I know, sorry. I didn't mean that. But although I do think there's energy drinks with THC in them.
There is, and CBD and all that.
CBD.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's the synopsis of the article. We'll, of course, link it in the show notes. But what are your guys' thoughts on energy drinks? I know both of you drink them because I just know you both. So,
I think we've talked about our love for energy drinks or energy, just caffeine in general on this podcast. But I think everybody's different. Every body is different. So I've talked with people who they're like, they'll watch me drink an energy drink and they're like, oh my gosh, if I had one of those, I would be up for days.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I've maybe stressed out my adrenal glands so much that I can consume a lot of caffeine. I do drink energy drinks. I try to stay away from sugar. So every energy drink I do drink has 0 sugar in it, but I also know it probably has a fake sugar substance. I just live my life in moderation is really kind of my rule of thumb for me, and that works for me. But again, everyone's different. So I think to Morgan's point, you just have to be self-aware and really know what works for you, and then do that. I would never judge someone if they don't drink an energy drink, and obviously if they do, I wouldn't judge either. What about you, DK?
Well, this is an interesting topic because it's a newer product to enter the market, and yet there's extensive studies on the different ingredients profiles that make up energy drinks, but there's not a lot on just the specific formulations and things like that. So I tend to only be an absolutist when it comes to like morals and ethics. Like everything else, I'm not absolute on anything. I think if, right or wrong only exists at a moral level. Like it's wrong to like murder somebody, and it's definitely right to help poor people, right? Okay, so we can argue that. Maybe. But I personally am that type of absolutist. Now, underneath that, everything else, it's like right and wrong don't exist. And Trish, you language that everything in moderation. For me, the question is, are energy drinks bad for you? They can be. Are energy drinks good for you? They can be. It depends on what you mean by good and what you mean by bad. So we'd have to really define the question. So I'll just take some liberties to define it. And say, are energy drinks something that are going to promote your health or not? And generally speaking, energy drinks don't have a lot of evidence that are going to promote your health. But despite the internet, Instagram, the bloggers, journalists who either A, want to sell you a click, or B, want to sell you a product, they're going to take an absolutist view on these types of things, because if I need to sell a XYZ product, then the opposite of this product must be bad because my product is good. And so I will not do that, and we will always refrain from doing that, although we do have products and we do have services and we do sell them to people and we do sell franchises and all these, and we have a media company that sells accounts, all these things. My point is that everything has to be in moderation, and it's probably not promoting health. So my recommendation would be drinking energy drinks to get your caffeine intake is the least desirable way, put it that way. Now, let's break down high sugar content, carbonation, caffeine, and sorbic acid. Those are 4 common ingredients in energy drinks. So high sugar content, like Trish was mentioning, we all know that sugar in excess is toxic, okay? And we can study that. But what we don't know, and what the third-party peer-revised medical journals tell us, is that there is no significant correlation today, right now. I'm not saying that I'm promoting it, but there is no scientific evidence that says that, let's say, aspartame in the recommended qualities is something that's going to be bad for you. It might not promote health, but there's nothing that says it's going to be bad today, right? Carbonation. Well, we know that carbonation can lead to calcium deficiency. We know that our bones are primarily made of calcium. We know that carbonation can lead to some significant amount of bone rot, right? So regardless of whether you're drinking a soda or an energy drink, if it's got carbonation in it, that's something that you might want to look out for. So again, we have to define bad. And energy drinks, are we talking about ones with carbonation or not? Caffeine obviously is a drug, and drugs are a very wide category. Caffeine's in the same, used to be for a very long time in the same class as like methamphetamines and things like that. It hasn't been, marijuana used to be classified as a Schedule I drug with like methamphetamines and things like that. So there's this large umbrella of drugs, and then caffeine falls underneath that. And, but caffeine is not a Schedule I. Marijuana since moved to a Schedule III. So they're starting to bifurcate the different types of drugs, and caffeine is one, but it's also bad for those who have anxiety as a baseline. So if you're taking a bunch of caffeine and you're already an anxious person, it's just going to make you even more anxious. And then sorbic acid is a preservative. Again, same thing as like aspartame or artificial sugar. There isn't a lot of evidence that says that sorbic acid, both, by the way, in the USA, the FDA, and the EFSA in Europe, both agree that the sorbic acid preservative has not been proven at this point in time to have any maleffects on health, but it definitely doesn't promote health either. There's no effects either way. So my feeling is that our heart only has so many beats overall, and when we're putting a bunch of these different chemically engineered caffeine-based substances in our body, whether it's energy drinks or Burn Boot Camp's Ignite or 5-Hour Energy or coffee or tea, if we're going over that 400 milligram mark, we're starting to then compromise our heart health. And that's really, I think, the punchline to this is drink your energy drinks, know the risks of anything in excess. Water has water toxicity at its most extreme. You can literally die from water. So you can anything in excess, you can die. It can be very bad for you. So that's my take. It's a very interesting one because I don't recommend energy drinks to anybody, but I drink them myself. And my philosophy, generally speaking, is if it doesn't come from the earth, you shouldn't probably drink it. But sucralose, I think, gets demonized a lot. Maybe rightfully so. I don't know. I can't sit here and pretend to know. But I personally limit my intake of those things. But there isn't any proof scientifically, so I'm not one to pretend like I know stuff. I just read papers by the smart people that know stuff and keep a really open mind and willing to change my mind at all times. But just to be clear, I don't recommend aspartame because we don't know. I recommend things that promote health that don't necessarily they don't have to be bad for you. I want things to promote health. I'm done. That's a long rant.
All right.
That was good. I feel like we need to put some professor glasses on Devin when we have these clips.
I know. I like it.
Drop some knowledge.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of scattered, but also this whole category is scattered. I heard somebody once tell me that, DK, I really believe that energy drinks are going to be the modern version of cigarettes. Do you guys remember when in the 1950s, maybe it was earlier than that, when you'd have doctors in lab coats? You can go back and YouTube and Google these ads. There's doctors in lab coats that are
oh gosh,
smoking a cigarette, and they're come down and see me, not that bad for you. They're just smoking cigarettes casually in commercials. And, it could be that energy drinks are the new cigarettes. And 50 years from today, your kids are going to look back and Mom and Dad used to drink energy drinks? What a bunch of losers.
Yeah. No, I think it's a very real thing. It is somewhat of not an addiction, but it's like a routine. It's part of a routine, just like cigarettes are for people, at that point, that's not about the nicotine. It's just about the putting it up to your mouth and drinking it, or you know what I mean? So, all right, let's move on. We got member Q&A.
Okay.
Devin.
All right. So we're hearing from Misty Cross from Mount Juliet, Tennessee. And she asked the question, menopause and workouts, specifically burst and intense cardio. Should we be doing it? Trish, let's start with you.
So we have some really great trainers in Burn Nation that are getting specialized in these exact categories. And I'm really thankful for them to answer their questions. I am going to be honest, I don't know a lot about it. I am not at that phase in my life. But what I do know in talking with people who are in that is it's not a one size fits all. So I think your hormones, everyone's hormones are different at different times in their life. So my response to this question would be listen to your body. If it doesn't feel right when you're doing it, then you might want to go to the doctor and just talk with your doctor about what should you be doing. Get your hormone levels checked out. Is there a rise in cortisol because I know that happens if you do high intensity workouts. For me, I don't feel any different. So that's not something that I've ever had to kind of go look into, but I do know people that have had that. So I think it kind of goes back to really just knowing your body and being self-aware of what is happening in those moments and then diagnose it from there. So I don't know if that was super helpful, but that's just kind of my take on it. I don't know, Morgan.
Yeah, very similar take. I don't want to sit here and tell somebody exactly what they should and should not be doing because I do think it's very dependent on who it is and if they are perimenopause or menopausal. And I have done a lot more research on it, but again, I don't think it's a one size fits all. So this is a Burn member. So you're somebody that has the opportunity to come to 6 days a week. So we have strength workouts, we have conditioning workouts, and I'm not going to say that we should be skipping our conditioning workouts. I think that strength is definitely a focus during this time of your life as you are starting to age. We need to make sure we're doing everything that we can to maintain that lean muscle, to make sure that our bones are strong as well. So I believe that you need to focus on strength. You need to focus on getting your protein in, but I don't think you should be removing cardiovascular from your exercise routine because that has other benefits in your life and your heart health. It's just about how is it making you feel, or are there ways that you can reduce, high intensity cardio? Maybe you're not going to that 100% of your effort on those days, and you're working with your trainer to say, I want to make sure I'm keeping my heart rate down, or but you're still moving, right? So I'm never going to promote to stop going to a camp, to stop moving your body, to stop doing a hard thing every single day. And that is what I do fear. Some of the misconceptions out there can cause people to say, well, then I can't go do this workout anymore. And that's the one workout that's really gotten you, moving consistently. So I think it's just about modification, which we do so well at Burn Boot Camp. And it's about focusing on some other parts of your life more than maybe you have in the past phase of your life. So getting movement in is very important. Eating protein and strength training is where I would be focused if this were me.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are exactly right. I mean, that's exactly right. And for all of our members out there that are in this phase or this period of their life, it's something that I, as a trainer, ran into often. Most people would just continue to do what they've always been doing, right? And I think, Trish, you hit the nail on the head when you said self-awareness. Those people that just keep plowing through, keep training, keep their strength training high, like Morgan said, keep their conditioning going, and don't let the cascading effects from the estrogen or the progesterone take you out of your game. You just need to make sure that you realize how powerful your female, it's the predominant female hormone is estrogen, right? Males have testosterone and estrogen. You guys have testosterone as well. That's a dominant hormone, right? So when your levels of that start to decline, there's a whole pathology that happens from night sweats to mood changes to sleep problems and et cetera, hair, skin, nail loss, vaginal dryness and decreased libido and urinary issues and all the things, joint muscle pain. A lot of our members, you guys giggle when I say vaginal.
I wasn't expecting that from you. I'm loving your research on this, Devan. It's true, right?
I have to bring it back and get it fresh because it's been a couple years since I've
Well, I mean,
like somebody, but
the reality is I don't want to gaslight anybody on this podcast to say like, oh, just keep doing the same thing, because I have had a lot of friends and just members who are like, I'm frustrated. Like, I'm gaining weight. I'm still eating the same I've always ate. I'm working out, but I'm gaining belly fat and I'm gaining weight. And that is a frustrating feeling on top of all the other things that Devan just mentioned you start to go through. And so I don't want to take this topic as lightly, right? I think that there's a lot of research still that needs to be done on women and what supplements should they be taking and what is the best thing that they should be doing. But I do think it just is so dependent, and that's where we need to start encouraging people to work with more of a specialist on nutrition and supplementation during that phase. But anyways, I'll let you.
Well, no, you're exactly right. And like I said, most members that were going through that phase of their life just kept plugging along. But there was a significant percentage of them that would sit down with me in a focus meeting and tell me all these things and how they're happening to their life and how, estrogen is such a powerful hormone that you have increased fat storage when it starts to go away, right? This is where the weight gain comes from. So it's like, I'm working out harder than I ever have. My nutrition hasn't changed much. Like, I'm on point and I'm like gaining this weight. Often I would get fog, like mental fog. Members would sit down and say like, I'm going through menopause and like, I'm just not there. I'm just not with it. There's like neuroprotective effects from estrogen that when the estrogen starts to go to decreased levels, that you get cognitive decline in a lot of cases. And so it's even more important than to spike your heart rate and those things. But you've got to do that in the right time. You've got to listen to your body. Have a conversation with yourself. You have two versions of yourself. Don't let your ego get in your way and say, I got to keep doing the same things I've always done, because you're not the same person that you were the year before or the year after that. You are a different person, and your hormonal structure, your chemical structure is changing, and you do need to make some adjustments, but they're not universal adjustments, right? They're an adjustment that is based on you asking yourself the question, how do I feel when I do this? How do I feel when I go to burst training and I go all out? Am I drained for the next 4 days? Okay. Well, was I going as hard as I possibly could? Mm-hmm. Maybe I could just take off the gas just a little bit and try it again. or maybe I can just take an extra rest day during this period of my life. And so it is not a one size, fits all universal answer to the question, but generally speaking, you want to keep doing things that are similar to what got you to the point where you say, I feel good, and now I'm not feeling good because I'm going through menopause. Keep doing the things that made you feel good. Just start to modify it, right? Modify it to make sure that you are performing the daily regimen that makes you happy, that gives you energy, because that's what fitness should do. It should give you energy and confidence to go tackle your life with enthusiasm.
Yeah. And I also think don't compare yourself to anybody else. Like, I think sometimes I find myself doing that in camp and I'm like, oh man, she's going so much heavier. And I'm just like, no, I have to think about what is good for my body. And then also, if I'm feeling a certain way, I don't like to just blame, maybe I push myself. I also have to think about the other factors. Did I not sleep that well? Are my kids sick? Is that why maybe I'm not feeling that great in camp today? Did I not eat that well over the weekend? And that's why now I'm feeling this way. I think it's just taking a full just recap of what's going on in your full life. And then from there, it's then pulling things out and then going to see a specialist if you're still not feeling well. So I just think it all goes back to self-awareness and just really being able to pinpoint what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's such a great topic. And we're going to do more for that. I know Trish is, along with our VP of Fitness, Matt, really tag team our Burn On Demand program. And there we have now, I believe, 13 modalities, over 500 videos. There's a lot of content on there.
There's over 15 categories, over 500 pieces of content. And it's more than just workouts. We have recovery, and we're going to get even deeper into just education because we know that's what our members want. That's what we want. So.
Yeah, and I want to get experts in this stuff. Like, we can scratch the surface of it and we can give like general practical advice, because that's what I think matters the most. But also, being educated deeply gives you power too. It gives you the knowledge to know that what I am doing with my energy and my time is, it's in alignment with where I want to go because I have all the knowledge. So, okay, that's really good stuff. Who asked that question again? Who asked that question?
Misty from Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
Misty. Thanks, Misty.
Yeah.
We miss you guys in Mount Juliet. I haven't been back to Mount Juliet in a while. Do you remember building that floating floor in Mount Juliet with our?
I did not personally build that floor, but I remember when we built it because we opened that. That was a company on location.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It was.
I learn something new every day.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Our strategy to grow the company from the very beginning was to take company-owned, what we call HQ gyms, and put those in key markets and kind of plant the seed in the key markets and then let it grow. So we did that in Raleigh. And then we did that in Nashville, which was where Mount Juliet is. And then we did that in Tampa. And most recently, we had done that out in Salt Lake City in a bigger way. Yeah. And we're going to continue to do that, come into a city near you guys very, very soon. So if you're not near a burn, you got Burn On Demand for you right now. And if you are near Burn On Demand is it's like your assistant. It's like your sidekick. It's like your trainer in your pocket, so that when you need, when Trish gets sore quads from doing her Carrie Underwood workout, she can foam roll those things out right with Angie Munch live. Burn On Demand.
Okay, back to school. So Trish and I talked about it a little bit in the opening, and for some of you out there listening, maybe your kids have been in school, maybe they're not yet in school, but we're right in that sweet spot where kids are starting to head back and we're getting back into the routine. So we're just going to talk about some traditions and what works for us, and some healthy snacks and just healthy rituals and routines that you can put into your life, because maybe your kids are just going to school for the first time, so your world's rocked a little bit, and it makes life a lot busier.
Yes.
Believe it or not. You think like, oh, they're at school, so it's like, I get a little bit of a break, but it adds to your life too, because man, there are a lot of school activities that come our way as moms that we have to make sure we're not forgetting, projects and homework and school theme weeks and all the things. So let's kick it off with some back to school traditions that we do with our kids. So for Devan and I, we'll talk first. It's always like the haircuts and the back to school shoe shopping. Unfortunately, and fortunately, our kids are in uniforms, so we don't get to do back to school shopping. But I remember that being one of my favorite traditions growing up, is like we would actually go to Chicago, or I'd go to Detroit, which is like the other side of the state in Michigan. They had much better shopping than where I grew up. But my mom would always take my sister and I, and we'd do our back to school shopping. So we don't really get to do that with our kids because of uniforms, but we do shoes, which we like shoes in the Kline household. So shoes and haircuts is one of the 2 things that we did this year to get them ready. Devin, anything else that we did? I'm trying to think here.
No.
I mean, new backpacks, like the school.
You get them all matching backpacks. You do that. You'll get all, now that Ryan's in school.
Yeah, they're not matching, but they're from the same place. State backpacks, I love. They're incredibly pricey, but I have used them now for 2 years. This will go on the 2nd year for my big kids. So they were worth the price. I don't know if you have any
yes,
too. State bags,
mm-hmm.
yeah. And I'm not getting any money from saying that. The other thing that, gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Well,
You do photos.
yes, of course. Back to school photos with the little chalkboard, if I can remember right. I need to order one, or I had to order one for Ryan like last minute because I totally forgot about his. But yeah, that's what we do.
You run the traditions in the house.
Yeah,
I'm
Devin's
just part
just
of
like,
the
all
tradition.
right, let's go.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say. So, back to school supply shopping used to be something we did, but I'll be honest, this year our school offered that you could pre-order
The box.
everything, and it just came, and it was already in the classroom, and I paid maybe like $100, and I took the bait on that one because as a busy working mother, I mean, as much as I love to go shopping with my kids, 3 of them, I don't want to do that really. And it would either be that or just a bunch of quick ordering on Amazon. So I paid a little bit more of a premium. So thank you to my school and any other schools that do that. That's one of those convenience hacks that I appreciate because, again, as a mom, it takes one less thing off my list.
Yeah, no, it's funny. Last year I forgot to order the box, and I was doing the whole Amazon, but then there was stuff sold out on Amazon for back to school. So then I was like between Target and Amazon, like,
oh my gosh,
I was
yeah.
like just piecing it together. So yes, shout out to whoever came up with that idea. Brilliant. For me, it's very similar to you guys. My mom used to take me back to school shopping with my cousin, who's my same age back when we lived in Arizona, and I tried to continue doing that with my kids. And my mom actually comes with us, so we have like a day where we all go, and she picks them out, like usually their first day of school outfit because we don't have uniforms, and then we get them, the necessities that they need. So that's one of my favorite traditions. It's so funny because we used to go to Dillard's in Arizona. I don't know if there's Dillard's wherever y'all are at, but now whenever I go into a Dillard's and that smell, it like brings me back to that back to school shopping moment, which it's just kind of fun memories that
Dillard's
I'm so
has great clothes. Like I just do the online Dillard's, but we didn't grow up near one.
Okay.
And I was introduced to one kind of later in life, but with kids, they have really good like kids sports clothes even.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
So-
no, Dillard's is great, and it has that smell. I don't know. It takes me back in time. It's a time machine. But then I will say I've gotten pretty bad at the chalkboard. Last year I forgot altogether. I'm the mom that took the chalkboard picture like 3 days after the first day of school, just
Hey.
because I was like, oh, I feel bad. And this year I'm not even gonna do it. I don't think I'm just gonna take the picture. Because I think eventually when they're in high school, they're just not going to do the chalkboard thing. So I'm like, we've got to phase it out at some point.
Yeah.
So that's me telling myself that it's okay that I didn't do the chalkboard
100%. And don't compare yourself to what everyone else is doing on your social media feed.
I mean, there are some moms out there that it does make it challenging for me, especially now, working parent. My husband goes to work before my kids are even up. So it's just me trying to get them out, and I do the best that I can, but I can't do all of the things. And so it is hard with social media to not feel bad about yourself. But I think, again, it's just like keeping it strong. I'm doing what's best for me. And I am still pouring into my kids, and I'm still doing the things that, I know that they appreciate that we have together and those memories together. So yeah, otherwise it's really the same as you.
Yeah.
One of my favorite traditions growing up, and for those of you that don't know my story, I was on welfare for most of my life and grew up in poverty, and we paid like $400 or $500 for rent at our house, things like that. So $100 to go school shopping was like the most exciting time of the year for me, because it'd be like the only time where I got to go and I got to shop, and I was just excited for it. And I'll tell you what, for $100 at the Salvation Army, you can look fly. Like, you can put it together. I would get all my suits from there. I'd get all my school clothes from there. And then I remember a couple years, my mom would take me to like Kohl's, and I thought it was the coolest, most high-end luxury store that I've ever been to go to the Kohl's and to go shopping and to buy the polos from Kohl's. So, that school shopping for me, like from a kid's perspective, was always really cool. So and by the way, like I grew up when I was in it, like it was just normal to me. I was perfectly happy. Like I didn't know, I didn't really care. As long as I went to school, nobody made fun of me and I did a good job thrift shopping. Like I could put some fly outfits together. And so I always look good on the first day of school. And so moms and dads out there, if you don't make school clothes shopping a big deal for your children, do so, because I think they'll really remember it in the long run. It's like a weird memory that I have that it's probably because I was just really excited, and the embossment of that excitement emotion is like still lingers with me today. I just remember, there wasn't a lot of times I'd get $100 to go shopping, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. It's always nice to have like new gear when you're walking in somewhere. I even like that as an adult. So just even little things make a big difference for our kids. And so we were going to talk a little bit about healthy food options too for kids' schools lunches. Do your kids have hot lunch, or do you have to make lunch every day, or?
Well, we have hot lunch, but like we have the app where we can see what they order. And so we actually had to scale back on that because they were taking advantage of the options that the school was offering. So we have like a balance of like, we let them pick like 2 days a week, they can pick hot lunch. And then the other days I'm making them lunch because I want to make sure that they're giving themselves like the healthy food, right? Otherwise, they're just going to eat bags of chips, and then who knows what else is going to end up on their plate.
Same with us. Yeah, we have hot lunch option, and we let them do 2 days a week. But we actually have to order well in advance because the school doesn't have a cafeteria, so it's actually catered food. And if I look at my kids' diet versus like my diet as a kid, I used to eat hot lunch all the time, and then we would have like access to the vending machines and. I think it is important that we still at this phase of their life control like what they're eating at school, and not giving them full reign to get chips out of the vending machine or Gatorade out of the vending machine, because all that stuff just adds up. So we pack lunch 3 days a week, and we pack snacks and all of that, and it feels good to be in control, even though it's a little bit of extra work, every night to do it.
Yeah, and I think it reminds, like we always talk about protein, like this is how I've started to educate my kids. I think now, my oldest two are 9 and 8, and now they understand protein. They understand that they need to eat their protein first, and then the fruit. Like we have like this order of like what they should eat. Otherwise, they're going to eat
fruit last.
They're going to the fruit last, or they're going to have their whatever. Because I always try to give them like a little like snack, like a bag of like cookies or something. I'm like, that's after you eat all your protein and all your fruit, and then you can enjoy your treat.
Yep.
So it's also like an educational, I don't know, I guess I took it maybe too far, but it's worked for us.
It's the best thing to do. We got to educate them on that, and why the food is healthy for us, and what kind of things it does for our body. We do the bento box, lunch box, and it actually like does protein, grains, veggies, fruit, and then dairy, I think it is, which we don't give our kids a ton of dairy, but anyways, it's been fun for them. So.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's not been fun for me trying to control the nutrition intake at school. That's been quite a bit of frustration for me when I tell the teachers like, hey, don't feed them like cupcakes every day. And then Cameron comes home, or Max comes home and is like, I had 4 cupcakes today and they were so good. That was everyone's birthday.
Maxie doesn't talk like that, just so you guys know.
Well, I don't have a low voice like that.
Yeah.
It's my best kid voice.
Yeah, no, it's tough. It's a challenge for sure, the birthday parties and everything. But like we've
Teachers
said,
don't listen
moderation.
To me when I tell them.
Moderation. Yep. Okay, what are we moving on for? Devin, we got another Q&A.
Yeah, we do. We have one more from Emily Rogers from Bluffton, South Carolina. And she asks us to talk more about radical candor. And I'm really excited for this topic, you guys. As leaders of the organization, we have to deploy radical candor on a daily basis. So what is radical candor? It's a book, first of all, but it's more of a concept. And the concept is being straightforward and honest with somebody through the lens of love. And if you kind of just take this practically and break it down, for me, radical candor there's a couple elements to it. Number one is you have to see yourself as a mentor. If you don't believe that you're a mentor, you don't see yourself as a mentor or even a peer that's able to give feedback, if you feel below other people to that extent, you're not going to be able to even have the belief system, the mindset for radical candor. So you've got to believe that you're worth you're a person that can give feedback, and other people are those who are worth giving feedback to. So that's the prerequisite. Okay, so the next level of it. And you can read the book if you'd like, and it will obviously elaborate on these things. But the next level of it is when you see something that needs to be mentored, you must do it, rush to conflict, and do not wait. Because the further out you wait, the less opportunity there is for the person that you're giving feedback to or being radically candor with. The more time goes on, the more the feeling, the emotion will dissipate. So 72 hours later, after a incident in a meeting that happened, isn't going to be as emotionally embossed as it would be if you did it 72 seconds after that meeting was done. So timing really matters. Your belief system really matters. Okay, now when you do rush to conflict and when you do approach somebody, here's where the radical candor comes in. And there's a process in the book, and it's, I would say, okay, it's a rather methodical, chronological, not practical. It's just a framework, right? It's a good framework. But how it usually happens is you remind somebody how much you love them and why you're about to give them feedback. So first is remind them remind them that you're about to give them some hard feedback. So number 2, remind them that you love them. Number 3, anchor them deep. I'll explain what that means in a minute. Give them the feedback and then make them repeat it back to you. So I'll walk up to somebody and be like, listen, I love you so much that I have to have this hard conversation with you. Okay, that's step 1 and 2. I told myself if I ever saw you doing something that could be potentially harmful or we could do it better, that I would bring it to you. And do you remember when you told me that you wanted to grow and that you wanted to me to call things out if I saw them to help you cover your blind spots? You remember that? Okay, good. So what I'm going to tell you, this is the anchoring part. What I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to like it. You need to say that, because if you don't say that, then what's going to happen is you're going to hit them really hard no matter what. So what I do is I anchor you in the perception that my feedback is actually way worse than it actually is. So you're not going to want to hear this right now. Do you remember that interaction with John when you were defensive when they asked you about that report or that number that you were talking about? Do you remember how defensive you got there? Do you agree that you got defensive? Okay, and I ask them the question, and I let them tell me. I let them say, oh, yeah, I agree with you, or I disagree with you. We call this the feedback loop in our organization, by the way, in some sense. Yeah, I do agree with you, or I disagree with you. And then you can have a conversation, but the idea is to get to a point where that person agrees with the mentorship that you observed, and then the last step is that they repeat back to you clearly what you just talked about, because we know as leaders, if you don't translate things very clearly and then get somebody to then transcribe back to you what they thought you said, then you leave a big gap for error. We're not on the same page at that point. The only way to get on the same page is to have an expectation of one another in the future, which is then to say, okay, repeat back what we just talked about so I know what to expect next time that I see you in a meeting and you have discrepancy with another teammate about a number. So that's like the practical side of radical candor. That's what I read when I read the book or when I read other books that discuss this same concept, like Nonviolent Communication is another book that those of you can read. I prefer nonviolent communication. It's more scientific based, it's more psychologically based, in my opinion, than radical candor. But radical candor is, you know, like I said, it's a framework that you can use to say the hard things to the people that you love the most. And here's why that's important, and then I'll pass it to you guys. The reason why that's so important is because a great business functions like a highly functioning family. A poorly functioning family will sweep all the problems under the rug and never talk about it again. Like, we're just going to sweep everything that happens under the rug because I don't want to ruin the relationship of love that I have with, like, my sister or my brother. And that is the definition of dysfunctional. Now, there can be degrees to that. You can be highly dysfunctional, or you can just, you know, maybe not want to ruffle feathers because it's not worth it to you, and that's fine. But either way, there's a level of dishonesty when you don't have radical candor in a family. A highly functioning family will use radical candor to say, I love you, my dear brother, so much that I refuse to let you go through your life acting like an idiot. Stop doing this thing. It's jeopardizing our relationship. Look at how it's making everybody feel around you. I want to have an amazing relationship with you, and I don't observe one right now. This is how I'm feeling. Let's talk about it, and let's get to a point where we can have a better relationship. So those confrontational conversations that actually bring forth growth and bring forth honesty can't be swept under the rug, or else you're just going to get dysfunction to some degree. So that's what radical candor is all about. And I use it, some form of it, on every interaction that goes well. The interactions I have that I don't use it don't usually go well, which is fewer and further between than it used to be.
I'll say, Devin, you actually were instrumental in my growth in this topic. It was a couple years ago, we had some one-on-one sessions, and he was really helping me through challenging conversations. And I will say, it's helped me grow tremendously from just the first time, and I'm just going to go into like having these conversations. It's super uncomfortable. Yeah. I was so nervous. If you're going to do it right, like if you're actually going to think through it and you're going to make sure because we're a people first organization. So that's why I really like this, this method, is because you are thinking about the other person. How are they going to receive this feedback? You want both of your relationships to be better because of this conversation. And then you also want them to grow, and then you're also going to grow because of it. So I remember vividly the first real conversation that I had using this methodology, and I was sweating. I was so nervous. I didn't want to mess it up. But after having, and I practice rep with a couple people, so I do recommend practice repping because it does help get you, because you kind of like black out when you're going to go do it. But it does help you in the long run more with that person, whenever you're giving that feedback to. You are going to have a stronger connection because of it, because they're going to see that you actually really do mean well, that you are trying to help the relationship, whatever that issue is, so where you're having to give that feedback. The end of that conversation is going to go a lot smoother, at least in my experience, than if you just like jumped into it. Or to Devin's point, if you just brushed it under the rug, because that's not going to do anyone any good. So now I actually, in a really weird way, enjoy those types of conversations, because I know every single time I go into giving feedback, I learn something about myself, about my delivery, about the other person. It's a growth moment for me. And that was kind of a turning point for me to really like getting uncomfortable in those situations, because I know on the other side of it, I'm going to feel much better. While I'm still uncomfortable usually in that situation, that part hasn't gone away. I now look at it as a growth opportunity for myself. And I recommend, everyone on my team, and I've now taken Devin's, what he's taught me, and I try and then share that to my team and have those conversations with them and help them understand that this is a good thing to have these types of conversations and to be open and honest with each other in the best, most efficient way that you possibly can.
Yeah. I agree with everything you guys have said. And I'll kind of just take it from my own experience as well, that yes, they're uncomfortable. And the more you do it, though, the better it does get. So the first couple are going to feel messy, especially if you're not used to talking to somebody. Like you've had a relationship with somebody for a while and you've really never said the hard things, and suddenly you do. It feels different. It feels weird, and it's hard. And so, going back to what Devin said, it's really about having a conversation about somebody with honesty, but out of a form of love and empathy. And I've had to kind of flip my own switch too, because I'm always afraid that I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings, or I'm going to make them feel bad, about the feedback I'm about to give them. But what I've also learned is when I do that out of love, out of a good place, to make both of us better, to make the company better, that's the best form of love that I can give them, even though it's the hard, because a lot of people might be going around them thinking the same thing, but not willing to say the hard things that they need to hear. Because really, when you're having difficult conversations with someone, what you're doing is just exposing some blind spots that they just don't see, right? It's sharing a different perspective to them that they're not able to see. And, I think for anyone that's delivering a hard message or hard feedback or radical candor, one of the first things you need to be prepared for is somebody's wall to immediately go up and feel defensiveness, because that's our natural, I think that's a very natural state to be in if you're not used to getting feedback and have hard, difficult conversations. And so there's been times that I'm doing this with people, and I need to also honor that they need to process what we just talked about. And it's okay that they may not have answers in the moment, or they may get emotional in the moment. That doesn't mean that I've been a bad human and made them cry and made them feel bad. It's just that's their natural reaction when they get delivered some bad news or some honest feedback that no one else was willing to say to them. So, as you're adopting this radical candor into your marriage or your kids or your friendships or your work relationships or people that you're managing, know that it's also going to feel weird for the person receiving it, and don't let that paralyze you or back away. Say the hard things out of love always. That's the difference between being a nice manager and an asshole. Is like, are you saying this stuff to like gain power over them and make them feel like they're less superior? Because that will show through every time. But when it's out of love, right? And it's say, I want to make you a better person. I want to make this organization a better person. And I'm willing to take myself and put myself out on the line and say, and have you be upset with me because no one else will say that hard thing. Just be willing to be the villain for a little bit. I promise you they'll come back around and they're going to thank you for it, because they're going to reflect and they're going to take time to process, and they're going to be like, thank you for saying things that no one else would had the guts to say to me. Yep. So
that's so true. That's so true. And it might take a year. It might take 2 years. It could take 10 for somebody to realize how pivotal you were in their story.
Admit to you that like that one moment, although Devan's done this before. I'll just be honest. He's done this before and people have quit. They've literally put their 2 weeks in the minute they walked out of his office. And I was there to witness it. But then they come back around months later and say, thank you for saying what you said. In the moment, it was an emotional response to just walk away. And that's, it's a hard thing to process for sure.
So I wanted to, before we move on, I wanted to give a hack to this. I usually don't like hacks, but Radical Candor is a long book. Nonviolent Communication is a long book. So, and we've got a lot of people in Burn Nation that we've got to educate on how to have accountability-driven feedback loops on a daily basis. So I'm going to teach you guys right now the 60-second rendition of what I teach our system on how to have hard conversations. Let's see if I can do this in 60 seconds or less. You guys ready for it? Okay, this framework, you're going to be able to take it and you're going to be able to apply it immediately to your conversations, any conversation at every level. There's 5 steps to it. Somebody start my clock because I know I'm going to go over. No, I'm not. I'm not going to go over. I got this. Okay, here we go. How to have hard conversations in 60 seconds or less. It's called the feedback loop. There's 5 steps. Number 1, how did that go? Okay, you walk up to somebody and you say, how did that go? One good thing from them, one bad thing. Okay, or area of opportunity. The second thing is, would you like my feedback? This is like the metaphorical foot in the door, where you're not pounding on their door, yelling at them what your feedback is or what your opinion is, but you're just asking them, can I come in? They crack the door a little bit from you, and then you take a step in. Okay, the third step is from my perspective. From my perspective, ... Give your feedback in the ... But what this does is, from my perspective, means you're not right or you're not wrong. You're not projecting what is right or wrong onto the other person, okay? Number 4, you ask them, is the feedback that I gave you, is that fair? And they'll say yes or they'll say no. Don't assume you're not right. Give them an opportunity to disagree with your feedback. And number 5, what will we do next time? Get clarity. Get acceptance of the feedback. Make sure you have an expectation of the future. And if you do those 5 things, your life in general is going to get a lot better if it's in every interaction. How'd I do?
I think that was under a minute. Good job.
It's good? Okay.
Good job.
DM me if you want me to elaborate. I'll be happy to. Okay.
All right.
Myth or fact?
All right,
Last one here before we take it out, people.
Okay. I will open this one up. So this is an article. I think it's Children's WI. I don't know exactly what that stands for, but it is talking about organic food versus non-organic food. And the question is eating organic foods healthier than eating non-organic? And so what do you guys think? Is this a myth or a fact?
I think the part of this question or statement, I guess, is the word healthier to me stands out because that's what's throwing it off. I think a lot of people take the word healthier and then that's like, oh, okay, so if it's healthier, that means so many different things. Like it's such a broad term that for me, I would say I can't say myth or fact because it's not either. If
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the question is very misleading, like you said. And so in the article, it's a myth, but I want to make sure we really talk about this because I don't want it to be known that we're sitting here and saying, yeah, you should just do non-organic all the time. I think there is a time and a place for organic versus non-organic food. And I think Devan wants to talk a little bit about that from a produce perspective. But at the core of it, the non-organic versus organic doesn't have different nutrition makeup, right? It's the same food, same amount of calories typically, and same macros and whatnot. But what non-organic versus organic does take into account is the pesticides and how it was grown and what chemicals have been put on it, and then what are those harmful effects to your body and how does that impact you? And so for me personally, I eat organic food and I eat non-organic. I'm not an absolute on this. I mean, there's things that we buy that doesn't need to be organic. It's okay that it's non-organic, but then there are things that I'm going to pay an extra, couple dollars to get organic because I know that I don't want the additional pesticides and chemicals, not just on me, but also on my children. So, again, this question is misleading in my opinion, and there's a lot to it. So, Devan, talk to us a little bit about the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah, definitely. I will talk to you about the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 and just try to give some distinctions and to when to and when not to buy organic produce. But I think this is such a relevant topic right now. You see inflation that's driving the cost of food up like crazy. It's up 40 or 50% than what it was. I mean, right now, people that struggle financially are really struggling to eat healthy food. And so this is a very important distinction because you're right, Morgan, not everything has to be organic. Organic is definitely more expensive on average than non-organic, if not always. And so when it comes to produce, which, is an essential part of our diet, you have the Clean 15 and you have the Dirty Dozen. And what the Clean 15 means is that these foods tend to be the least contaminated. Okay, you shouldn't be afraid to buy these organic, and I'll explain why in a minute. And the Dirty Dozen are the fruits and vegetables that tend to have the most pesticides, like Morgan was saying. Okay, so what is it? Why? It has a lot to do with where they're grown and then what the composition of the food is. So a lot of the Clean 15, where you don't have to buy it organic, which are asparagus, avocados, cabbage, cantaloupe, cauliflower, eggplant, grapefruit, kiwi, mangoes, onions, papayas, pineapples, sweet corn, sweet peas, sweet potatoes. Okay, that's the Clean 15. You get away with non-organic here because of how it's grown, or oftentimes the shell, like an avocado, like the shell of an avocado, the absorption rate, the ability for the pesticides to get through is limited, and you don't eat the shell. Nobody ever eats the shell. So don't waste your money on organic avocados. Now, the Dirty Dozen, remember, these are the foods that have the most pesticide residue. They are apples, celery, cherry tomatoes, cucumbers, grapes, nectarines, peaches, potatoes, snap peas, spinach, strawberries, sweet bell peppers, hot peppers, kale, and collard greens. And as you can see here, a lot of these foods, like say strawberries, kale, collard greens, hot peppers, you're eating the whole thing, right? You're eating the portion of the fruit or the vegetable where the pesticide gets applied at a surface level. So that's the general ideology of the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen. And for those of us that are buying lots of fruits and vegetables, which we should, Burn Nation, everybody out there, follow the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen as a way to help mitigate this crazy inflation right now and keep more money in your pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's good.
Is that good?
Yeah, I think you nailed it there.
Did we mic drop?
Yeah, you mic dropped us.
Okay. Morgan, listen, Trish, this has been a great show.
Yeah, it's good topics.
It's really good topics. We hope you guys are having such a good time on the Burn Boot Camp podcast, putting the mental reps in. Do us a favor, if you don't mind. Go ahead and share this episode with somebody that you hold dearly in your life, because once you start to couple the mental and emotional reps with the physical reps, and you're hearing it in your ears, but you're also feeling it in your body on a daily basis, that's where the real transformation starts to happen from the inside out. So get somebody you love in your life to get positive inputs in your ears. hey, garbage in, garbage out. If you have garbage going into your ears, even if it's like really great shows like Netflix and things like that are fun, and we should all, go on those cinematic adventures once in a while to escape reality. Like we're here, we're real. Our bodies are physical in space and time, and we got to take care of them. Our body is a temple, and you get the motivation and the set of mind or the mindset to be able to do that here on the Burn Boot Camp podcast. So Trish, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
Morgan, thank you for
you.
being here.
Thanks
Any
for
last
having
words
me.
from you guys?
No, I think just like Devin said, leave us a review. Make sure you're subscribing. But also, we love the member questions. I really enjoy making sure that we're adding value to you guys and answering your questions. So I would just encourage you today, if you have any questions out there, comment below on this video, or you can find us on social media. Give us your name, your location, and what is your question. And we look forward to answering them in future podcasts. So, all right, guys, we are going to take it out like we always do. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
See ya.